Have you ever wondered why some people, no smarter than you, seem to attract success like gravity? Why their lives seem designed while yours feels like it's running in circles? No, it's not because they're lucky. It's not because they were born into money. It's because they were told something that you weren't. And that's not by accident. What if I told you that everything you believe about success was carefully designed to keep you average? What if the system isn't broken? It was built this way. They don't want you to know the truth, but Napoleon Hill knew, and for decades they tried to bury it. This video is not just another motivational rant. It's a deep dive into what was deliberately hidden from you, because if you knew it, you wouldn't be controllable anymore. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see exactly why 98% of people stay broke, distracted, and obedient, and you'll never be one of them again. If this resonates even a little, if something deep inside you is waking up right now, hit subscribe because this channel doesn't play by the same rules. We're here to expose them. Let's go back to where it began. The idea of hard work equals success was branded into your mind like a tattoo before you even knew how to spell the word success. Go to school, get good grades, get a job, work hard, retire at 65. That's what they told you. That was the path, the American dream. But here's what they didn't say. That system wasn't built for you to win. It was built for you to comply. See, in 1908, a man named Napoleon Hill was given a once-in-a-lifetime mission by steel magnate Andrew Carnegie to spend 20 years interviewing the wealthiest and most powerful men on Earth, J.P. Morgan, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Rockefeller, and extract their laws of success. But when Hill compiled these principles into what would eventually become Think and Grow Rich, not everyone was pleased. Because he didn't just talk about money. He exposed something far more dangerous, that success has nothing to do with circumstances and everything to do with your subconscious programming, your ability to hold a definite purpose, and your power to control thought. He said things like, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Now, to the average person, that sounds motivational. But to the elite, the ones running factories, media, education, that's dangerous. Because if the working class starts to believe they can think themselves into wealth, if they stop blindly obeying and start imagining, visualizing, manifesting, then who's going to keep the machine running? Who's going to stay poor enough to keep buying cheap products and rich enough to stay just comfortable enough not to rebel? They didn't want Napoleon Hill's philosophy taught in schools. They didn't want it on your morning news, and they sure as hell didn't want you passing it on to your kids. Instead, they taught you this: stay in your lane, don't think too big, be realistic, trust the system, and for God's sakes, don't fail. But here's the paradox they don't want you to realize. The most successful people in history failed more than you've even tried. And the only reason they succeeded is because they refused to stay in the box you were trained to fear. Now think about this. If the system really worked, why is it that millions of people who followed it to the letter are still broke, anxious, overworked, and unfulfilled? Let me say it plainly. You weren't taught how to succeed. You were taught how to obey. Napoleon Hill said it best. The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. But they don't tell you that. They tell you, don't work for free. Don't take risks. Don't speak up. Because the second you start acting on faith, on vision, on intuition, you break their spell. This is why most people scroll TikTok instead of planning their legacy. Why they binge-watch Netflix instead of studying wealth. Why they dream but never decide. They're trapped in a cycle Hill called hypnotic rhythm. It's the force that pulls you back into sameness every time you try to rise. But here's the truth. You are one decision away from escaping it. And that decision starts with this. Stop asking permission to become successful. Because success doesn't require permission. It requires alignment. Alignment with what? Your definite purpose. Not a vague wish, not a mood board. A clear, burning, non-negotiable mission that becomes the compass for your entire life. But here's where they get you. They keep you busy enough to forget what that purpose even is. They distract you with debt, dopamine, and drama. So you never stop and ask, what was I born to do? Because if you ever did, you'd start building a life they couldn't control. And they fear that. They fear you. If this is hitting you like a brick wall, good. That means your mind is waking up. Don't lose that momentum. Click like so YouTube knows you're ready for more like this. And drop a 100% in the comments if you're done being average.
The secret of definite purpose they don't teach in school. Welcome back. In part 1, we cracked open the first layer of the lie, the illusion that success is about hard work, obedience, and staying in your lane. But now, we go deeper. There's a reason why 98% of people never break free. It's not because they're lazy. It's because no one ever told them this one truth. You cannot hit a target you don't even see. And that's where we begin, with one of the most misunderstood and deliberately hidden teachings of Napoleon Hill. There is one quality which one must possess to win, and that is definiteness of purpose, the knowledge of what one wants, and a burning desire to possess it. Sounds simple, right? But here's the sinister part. The modern world is designed to blur that purpose before you even discover it. Think about it. From the moment you're born, you're given a schedule, a label, a role. You're told to pick a career before you've even lived a full life. You're told what success should look like before you've even figured out who you are. You weren't raised to think for yourself. You were raised to fit in. And if you tried to step out, if you dared to say, I want more than just a job, they called you a dreamer, a rebel, unrealistic. That's not an accident. That's programming. But let me show you something Hill discovered, and this is where things get serious. In his study of the world's most successful men, Hill noticed something eerie. Every single one of them, without exception, had a crystal clear goal. Not a vague desire, not a wish, a definite purpose backed by obsession. Henry Ford wanted to democratize the automobile. Thomas Edison wanted to light the world. Rockefeller wanted to dominate the oil industry. And they would not be denied. Now let me ask you, what's your definite purpose? Not what your parents wanted, not what society says is respectable, not what pays well. I mean your real mission, the one that keeps whispering to you at night when the world gets quiet. You see, they want you to believe that having a mission is idealistic, that you should settle, that you should be grateful for what you've got. But settling is not gratitude. It's surrender. And you weren't built to surrender. If you're still watching, then something inside you knows you've been playing small for too long. Take a moment. Hit the like button, not for the algorithm, but for yourself, as a commitment that you're done living life in neutral. Now, let's take this even further. Napoleon Hill didn't just preach definite purpose as some motivational catchphrase. He laid out an entire framework to lock it into your subconscious. And it starts with 2 words, auto-suggestion. This is where the story gets weird and powerful. Hill claimed that the subconscious mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant there, repeatedly, will grow. Your thoughts are seeds, and your emotions are water. Repeat a thought often enough with enough emotional intensity, and the subconscious must accept it as truth. That's why most people never get rich. Not because they lacked skill, but because they keep repeating, "I can't afford that," or "success is for other people," or "I'm just not lucky." Guess what? Their mind listens, and it obeys. But Hill flipped that script. He instructed his readers to write down their definite purpose, their goals, their mission, and repeat it aloud twice a day. Not for superstition, for programming. Because when your subconscious aligns with your vision, you stop fighting yourself. You start moving with momentum. And suddenly, life begins to organize itself around your decisions. Now, here's where they come in. Because they knew that if you discovered this, you wouldn't need them anymore. You wouldn't need their schools to tell you who you are. You wouldn't need their approval, their validation, their system. You'd become dangerous. So they buried it. They called it pseudoscience. They filled your mind with noise, social media, endless news cycles, reality shows, anything to keep you distracted from your definite purpose. Because a focused human being is the most powerful force on the planet. And Hill knew it. Let's be brutally honest here. How many years have you spent following everyone else's script? Wake up, go to work, pay bills, scroll phone, repeat. And yet, that quiet voice inside you still whispers, "There's more to this life." That voice is not lying. But here's the harsh reality. Purpose doesn't find you. You have to claim it. And you have to claim it every day until your reality bends around it. That's what Hill meant when he said, "There is no hope of success for the person who does not have a central purpose or definite goal at which to aim." So, let me ask you again. What's your purpose? Not your job title, not your degree. Your purpose. Because until you get clear on that, you're not building a life. You're surviving in one. And survival is not what you came here to do. Success requires no apologies. Failure permits no alibis. Napoleon Hill. If this is pushing you to think deeper, that's a good sign. That means the fog is lifting. Let me know in the comments, what's one thing you know you're meant to do, but have been putting off? And if you're committed to discovering your purpose, subscribe now, because the next part is where everything changes.
The power of faith and why they don't want you to have it. Let's talk about a word that makes some people uncomfortable. Faith. Not religion, not dogma. I'm talking about the raw, unstoppable force that has moved mountains, built empires, and launched revolutions. The same force that Napoleon Hill placed right at the heart of his success formula. But faith isn't what you think it is. It's not hope. It's not optimism. It's not crossing your fingers and wishing for a better life. Hill defined faith as a state of mind that can be induced by auto-suggestion, a mental certainty that what you want is already yours even before you can see it. And here's the kicker. They don't want you to have it, because real faith makes you unstoppable. Faith makes you walk like the outcome is already guaranteed. It makes you speak like the doors are already open. It makes you act without permission. And that is a threat. You see, if you only believe what you can see, then you're a slave to your current circumstances. But once you start believing in something bigger, something invisible but inevitable, you stop playing their game, and they lose control. Hill said, "Faith is the only known antidote to failure." But they taught you the opposite. They told you to be realistic, to play it safe, to only believe in what you can touch, count,
or measure. Because when you start believing beyond the limits of logic, you tap into something they can't regulate, and that makes you dangerous. If something in you just woke up, if you're starting to realize the rules you've been playing by were meant to keep you small, hit like. Comment unstoppable if you're ready to walk by faith, not by fear. Let's go deeper. Here's what Hill knew. Your subconscious doesn't care if something is true. It only cares if you believe it with enough emotion. Read that again. This is why the world around you, your income, your relationships, your self-worth, is just a mirror of what you've allowed yourself to believe. So here's the million-dollar question. What beliefs are secretly controlling you? I'm not good enough. I'm too old. I'm not smart like other people. I'll never get out of debt. You don't say them out loud, but you feel them. And feelings are instructions to the subconscious mind. This is how the trap works. They plant the seed, you water it with emotion, and over time, it becomes your truth. But here's what they'll never tell you. You can rewrite your beliefs. Faith is the pen, repetition is the ink. Every time you declare something bold, I am successful, I am worthy, I am unstoppable, you etch a new belief on the walls of your subconscious. And if you say it long enough, feel it strong enough, you'll start to behave like it's true. And when behavior changes, results follow. But again, they don't teach this in school. Because if you realized your beliefs shaped your life, you'd stop giving your power away to systems, salaries, and opinions. You'd start walking like a creator, not a consumer. And that's not what they want. Now let's talk about fear, because this is where most people stop. Faith can't survive in the same room as fear. And fear is the #1 tool of control. You've been conditioned to fear what others think, to fear failure, to fear judgment, to fear losing a job, losing status, losing approval. But here's the secret Hill uncovered. Fear is a choice, and like any choice, it can be replaced. Replaced with action, with repetition, with certainty. Hill even identified the 6 major fears that sabotage success. Fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love, fear of old age, fear of death. Sound familiar? It should, because modern society profits from those fears. They sell you things to avoid poverty. They push social media so you fear criticism. They sell health products to make you fear aging. They spin love into a game of insecurity. They make death the ultimate boogeyman. Why? Because a fearful population is easier to distract, easier to control, easier to sell to. But a man or woman of faith, they don't buy into fear. They don't wait for permission. They move. Hill taught that faith isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you train. Every day you wake up and choose to believe in your mission, you strengthen that muscle. Every time you declare your vision out loud, you build new mental architecture. And over time, you become something they can't categorize, something they can't define, something they can't stop. If this part of the message is stirring something in you, if you're done letting fear write your story, subscribe. Not because it helps the channel, because it helps you commit to this journey. You weren't meant to live in fear. You were built to walk in faith, and you're just getting started.
The silent enemy, hypnotic rhythm, and how it keeps you average. Let me ask you something. Why do people who say they want change still live the same day, every day, for years? Why does motivation wear off so fast?
Why does clarity fade the moment you step back into your routine? Napoleon Hill had a name for this invisible force: hypnotic rhythm. And it's the most dangerous enemy of success that no one talks about. Because once you fall into it, you stop thinking. You stop questioning. You just exist. Hypnotic rhythm is the mental autopilot we develop when we repeat the same behaviors, the same thoughts, the same habits, day in, day out. And the longer you stay in it, the harder it is to break free. Let that sink in. Your routines might be killing your potential. And the worst part is you don't even notice it happening. Let's break it down. You wake up, you check your phone, you go to work, you scroll TikTok on breaks, you come home, exhausted, you watch Netflix, you sleep. Repeat. You tell yourself, tomorrow I'll change. But tomorrow looks just like yesterday because you're caught in rhythm. Not music, not harmony, a hypnotic rhythm designed to make you comfortable enough to stay mediocre. Hill warned us, this rhythm is more dangerous than failure because it doesn't feel painful. It just feels normal. And that's how it traps you. If you feel like this is describing your life right now, don't shame yourself. Awareness is the first step out of the trance. Hit like if you're starting to see the rhythm you've been stuck in, because the only way out is through awareness and decision. Let's go deeper. Napoleon Hill wrote about this more clearly in Outwitting the Devil, a book that wasn't published until over 70 years after he wrote it, because it was too controversial. In it, he describes the devil not as some red monster with horns, but as a metaphor for fear, procrastination, and drifting. Drifting is the cousin of hypnotic rhythm. It's the habit of moving through life without purpose, without direction, without fire. It's what happens when you consume more than you create, when you react more than you decide, when you delay action for just one more day. Drifters don't even know they're drifting. They might have jobs, degrees, even followers, but deep down, they're numb, going through motions, avoiding discomfort, living life half asleep. And the devil, this invisible force of conformity, feeds on that. Because as long as you're drifting, you're not a threat. You won't build, you won't rise, you won't fight. You'll scroll, you'll wait, you'll comply. But Hill makes this crystal clear. The first sign of a non-drifter is this: he always has a major definite purpose. You want to break free from hypnotic rhythm? Then every day must become an act of defiance. You don't get free by thinking about change. You get free by disrupting the rhythm. Wake up an hour earlier. Take a cold shower. Turn off your notifications. Delete the apps. Write your goals out loud. Do the thing you've been avoiding. Every small act of intentional discomfort chips away at the chains of your old life. Because success isn't about finding the path, it's about breaking the pattern. Think about this. If the enemy is rhythm, then your weapon is deliberate action. And you don't have to wait to feel ready. You just have to move before the rhythm pulls you back in. This is why most people never launch their business, why they never write that book, why they never travel, speak, change, evolve. They're stuck in rhythm. And rhythm rewards one thing: repetition. So here's your moment of truth. What are you repeating that's keeping you stuck? Because if you repeat excuses, you'll build a life of limits.
But if you repeat courage, action, clarity, you'll create momentum so powerful rhythm can't hold you anymore. Hill said, "Your only limitation is the one that you set up in your own mind." But they want you to forget that, because if you remember, you'll become dangerous again. They don't want you to disrupt the rhythm. They want you to blend in. But this video, this entire message, it's a glitch in their system. You're not supposed to hear this. You're not supposed to question the trance. You're supposed to be watching cat videos and arguing with strangers online. But you're here, right now, listening. That means something. If you're tired of drifting, if you're done letting rhythm dictate your life, comment "I'm awake" below and subscribe, because we're about to go deeper than ever. This isn't about motivation. This is about liberation. Tell the world what you intend to do, but first, show it. Napoleon Hill.
The gatekeepers of power, and why you're not one of them. Yet. Let's talk about power. Not status, not popularity, power. The ability to bend reality in your favor, to make things move when you speak, to influence decisions, change environments, create outcomes. There are people in this world who don't work harder than you. They're not smarter than you, but they have power. And most importantly, they have access. That's what separates the top 1% from everyone else. Access to networks, access to information, access to gatekeepers. And you've been kept on the outside of that circle by design. They don't want you in those rooms, because those rooms don't run on hard work. They run on leverage. Here's what Napoleon Hill uncovered, what almost cost him everything. Success isn't just about your grind. It's about your alignment with the forces of influence, decision, and unseen opportunity. And those forces are controlled by a very specific kind of person. Let's call them the gatekeepers. Hill discovered that these gatekeepers, the ones who control capital, media, policies, even education, operate on different rules. They don't chase success. They engineer it. They don't react to the world. They design it. But most people, they've been trained to wait, to hope, to ask for permission. You think a resume is going to change your life? You think a college degree is going to open secret doors? No. It's mindset, energy, network, positioning. These are the currencies of real power. If you're tired of waiting at doors that were never meant to open for you, smash the like button, because this next section is going to reveal why you were never taught to think like a gatekeeper. Let's dig in. In Think and Grow Rich, Hill talks about the mastermind principle. This was not just about teamwork. It was a spiritual law. No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force which may be likened to a third mind. The ultra-successful surround themselves with other minds of influence. They don't try to do it all alone. They sync up with energy, intelligence, and ambition that multiplies results. Meanwhile, you were taught to be self-sufficient, to do it all on your own, to compete instead of collaborate. Why? Because the moment you start building alliances with other powerful minds, you become impossible to ignore, unstoppable. You start creating your own table instead of begging for a seat at theirs. And that's what they fear. Because once you discover you don't need their gate, you build your own. Let me make this practical. Look around your circle. Do the people around you challenge you,
inspire you, expand you, or do they distract, drain, and delay your evolution? Because if your environment isn't multiplying your vision, it's poisoning it. Napoleon Hill didn't just study success, he lived with it. He embedded himself into the minds of titans, and he revealed something they tried to bury. The ladder of success is never crowded at the top. Why? Because most people don't climb. They wait. They hope. They ask for permission from people who already won. But you're different. You're not watching this by accident. You're feeling something awaken inside you, a refusal to stay small, a hunger to move differently, a whisper that says, I wasn't meant to blend in, and you're right. Now here's where it gets real. Every system of power has one thing in common. It protects itself. Education systems teach compliance. Corporate ladders reward obedience. Media trains your focus on entertainment, not empowerment. Why? Because if you knew how power really worked, you'd stop playing their game. You'd realize the real leverage isn't labor, it's vision. It's knowing how to move people, capital, attention, and belief. But they didn't teach you that. They taught you to be safe, to avoid risk, to chase comfort. And comfort is the enemy of elevation. Napoleon Hill was silenced for years. Why? Because his teachings didn't just motivate people, they liberated them. He taught people how to think independently, how to design their own reality, how to cultivate magnetic influence from the inside out. That kind of knowledge is fire, and fire, once lit, spreads. So they buried it, watered it down, packaged it into cliches. But if you've been paying attention, you know this isn't just another feel-good video. This is a blueprint for awakening. If this is connecting with something primal inside you, like you're remembering something you were meant to know all along, comment, I'm ready. Subscribe now and make a declaration. You're not waiting for access. You're becoming access. And trust me, part 6 is where we flip the entire board. Because next, we're diving into the enemy within, the invisible saboteur that's been stealing your focus, your confidence, and your destiny.
The enemy within. Doubt, delay, and the lies in your head. You've heard the quote, the greatest enemy lies within. But most people never meet that enemy, because that enemy wears their face, speaks in their voice, and sounds so reasonable they never question it. Let's talk about self-sabotage, because you can learn every strategy, read every book, watch every video, but if the voice inside your head hasn't been reprogrammed, you will lose. Not because you lack talent, not because you lack opportunity, but because you believed a lie. And the worst part, you repeated that lie until it became your truth. Napoleon Hill called this internal enemy the product of negative autosuggestion. See, your subconscious doesn't decide what's true. It simply accepts whatever is repeated with emotion. So when you told yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm too late, I always mess this up, your subconscious wrote that down like law. And now, you obey it without knowing. You hesitate when it's time to speak. You procrastinate when it's time to build. You distract yourself with comfort and call it rest. This is no accident, because while Hill taught the power of faith, definite purpose, and repetition, the system taught you the opposite: doubt, delay, distraction. Because those three things, they're more powerful than any prison. If this feels too real, if you're finally connecting the dots of why you've been stuck, comment below, "No more lies,"
And don't forget to like this video. You're not weak, you've just been hypnotized. Let me explain. Hill believed that every thought you think is a form of suggestion to yourself. So when you say, maybe later, your subconscious hears, this isn't urgent. When you say, it's not the right time, it hears, it's okay to settle. When you say, I'll try, it hears, I'm not really committed. And guess what? It acts accordingly. Because the mind is not loyal to your dreams, it's loyal to your dominant instructions. Now here's where this turns deadly. Every time you say no to action, every time you retreat from discomfort, you reinforce a subconscious belief that says, I don't have what it takes. Even if logically, you know you do. And that's what creates the gap, the war between what you know is possible and what you feel you deserve. Napoleon Hill called it the devil's greatest weapon, indecision. Because indecision leads to doubt. Doubt leads to fear, and fear leads to paralysis. You can't move forward when your identity is at war with your destiny. So what's the cure? It's not motivation. It's not hustle porn. It's repetition and identity shift. You must speak a new reality until your old self breaks. Hill said, you become what you think about, backed by emotion and repetition. So if you spent 10 years repeating thoughts of failure, you need to spend the next 90 days obsessively repeating thoughts of victory. That's not delusion, that's neural rewiring. That's how you install a new operating system. Let me show you how. Every morning, before the world wakes up, before the notifications, the distractions, the opinions, you speak these words into existence. I know exactly who I am. I know what I'm here to do. And no fear, no delay, no doubt will control me again. Repeat it, out loud, every day. It will feel weird at first. It should. You're evicting a voice that's lived rent-free in your mind for years. But if you keep going, the voice gets quieter, the power shifts, and your subconscious starts to align with your new identity. You stop trying to change, you just become. Because here's a brutal truth. You don't get what you want, you get what you believe. So if your beliefs are built on fear, shame, or past failure, you will never outrun that gravity. But if you build new beliefs on clarity, repetition, and identity, nothing can stop you. Not the economy, not your past, not their opinions. The system doesn't want you to know this. They want you to keep blaming the outside world, to keep consuming more content, to keep waiting for the perfect moment. But Hill didn't teach people to wait. He taught them to decide. Successful people make decisions quickly and firmly. Unsuccessful people make decisions slowly and change them often. So, here's your decision. Are you ready to kill the old voice? The one that whispers, what if you fail? The one that says, you don't belong here? The one that hides behind excuses and distractions and self-doubt? If the answer is yes, then Part 7 will be your turning point. Because next, we're not just exposing the lies, we're rebuilding the truth, brick by brick, step by step, until the world can't ignore what you've become. If you're done playing mental games with yourself, comment, I decide, and subscribe right now, because Part 7 is the final piece, the ultimate blueprint for freedom.
The final key. Build a life the system can't control. This is it, the final key. Everything we've uncovered, from definite purpose to faith to hypnotic rhythm to self-sabotage, it's all been leading to this one truth. You were never meant to survive the system. You were born to outgrow it. But they don't want you to know that. Because the moment you stop living reactively, the moment you stop waiting for permission, applause, validation. You become something they can't quantify. Free. And a free human being can't be manipulated, can't be controlled, can't be sold their own worth. That's why Hill's work was so dangerous, because his final message wasn't about money. It was about freedom, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial. And that freedom starts with a plan, not a dream, not a fantasy, a definite, written plan, executed with obsession. A goal is a dream with a deadline. Napoleon Hill. So let's build it, right here, right now. If you've come this far, you're not just watching a video. You're rewriting your life. Comment, "I commit." Then grab a notebook, because we're going to walk step by step through the ultimate blueprint for freedom. Step 1. Define your definite purpose. No fluff, no fear. Ask yourself, what do I really want to create in this life? If failure was impossible, what would I dedicate the next 5 years to? Write it down in clear, specific language. This is not a wish list. It's a contract with your future. Step 2. Back it with burning desire. Hill was clear. Lukewarm intentions don't create legendary outcomes. What price are you willing to pay? What are you willing to sacrifice, change, let go of? You can't keep the comfort and claim the crown. Step 3. Autosuggestion. Twice a day, morning and night, you repeat your definite purpose with emotion. Not like a robot, like your life depends on it, because it does. Say it until your voice shakes with belief. Say it until your subconscious can't ignore you anymore. Step 4. Specialized knowledge. Don't just work hard, work smart. Identify the skills, tools, and insights required to dominate your mission, and then obsessively acquire them. Read, watch, test, fail, learn. In a world of information overload, clarity is power. Step 5. Build a mastermind alliance. No one wins alone. Find people who are obsessed with becoming excellent. Cut ties with those addicted to average. Surround yourself with those who make you uncomfortable in the right way. Challenge forces growth. Comfort breeds decay. Step 6. Decision. Stop overthinking. Start executing. You don't need more motivation. You need more motion. Every day, move the needle, even when it's small, even when no one's watching, especially then. Step 7. Persistence. You will be tested, mocked, ignored, and that's how the universe checks, do you mean it? The majority quit when no one claps. The elite keep going until they can't be ignored. You don't rise by avoiding resistance. You rise by becoming the person who thrives through it. And when it gets hard, when doubt returns, remember this. The people who told you to be realistic, they were just projecting their own regret. They don't want you to win, because your courage reminds them of what they never became. Let them talk, you build. Let them laugh, you rise. Let them doubt, you prove it silently. This isn't about motivation. This is about becoming unrecognizable. And that happens when your habits shift, when your identity evolves, when your vision refuses to shrink to fit anyone else's comfort. Because here's the final secret Hill left behind. Success comes to those who become success conscious. Failure comes to those who indifferently allow themselves to become failure conscious. This is not just mindset, it's an operating system. You must build a life the system can't control. One where your income isn't capped by someone else's decision, where your time isn't dictated by someone else's calendar, where your self-worth isn't measured by likes, followers, or praise. You do that by starting with one brave decision: to stop living on autopilot, to stop being the spectator, to become the author of your own story. If this video series lit something in you, share it with one person who's ready to wake up. Subscribe now, because we're not done. We're building a movement, a new class of thinkers, a new breed of creators. And this was your first chapter. What comes next? That's up to you. The world has the habit of making room for the man whose words and actions show that he knows where he's going. Napoleon Hill. The awakening begins now.